All right, Joshua chapter 11. We are zipping right along. One of the things I noticed, I had a guy, Reverend John Shane Height, which some of you may know, taught me the Old Testament years and years ago. Hey, good to see you. Taught me the Old Testament. I was in college. I was in a Bible college and came in to teach a different group of people. And we got to sit in on the first session. And he recapped the Old Testament from memory, book by book. And we were just like, we got to sit in on this. So we went and asked, hey, can we rearrange our work schedule so that we can join this class and we'll work on, we worked half a day, we went to school half a day. And they went, you really want? Yeah, we think this is, and it taught me so much of the Old Testament. One of the things he talked about is having a Bible atlas. Oxford makes a great one. There's bunches. You can also find great Bible maps online. The problem is sometimes you got to find one for the specific time frame you're looking at. Like we're looking at coming into the Promised Land, the time of Joshua. So there are maps, and we'll probably look at some tonight, but it helps you.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Once more. Okay. I think I got that one up. So looking at maps to see when it's talking about this place in the north, this place in the south, this place over here, helps us with the story. And I think tonight we're going to look at, as we begin to get from the ending of the warfare, which we're going to kind of start to wrap up, to the dividing of Israel into tribes, families, by lots, where they would literally draw to get certain lots that they would work, and that those tribes and families, that land would stay in those tribes and families forever, and then the families would divide them up by lots. Every so often, I guess there was a drawing, and we talked about it in Ruth when Boaz said to his near kinsman, hey, I want to tell you about this parcel of land that's available from our brother Elimelech who died. If you're not going to buy it, let me know because there's nobody else and I'll buy it. And he said, oh, I'll buy it. He goes, well, when you buy it, you got to buy it of the hand of the dead, both Naomi, his wife, and Ruth, the Moabitess woman, his son's wife. Oh, I can't do that. Why don't you buy it? So he brought it back in and worked it in their name, basically. So the land of Israel was divided by God to Israel by tribes. And we're going to see some of the layout and some of the places, both in Deuteronomy and even in Ezekiel, when it talks about the future state of Israel. We'll talk about that. But to wrap up the war, the battling for the land, let's open up in Joshua 11, verse 1. It says, and it came to pass when Jabin, king of Hazor, had heard those things. It's talking about the battles that Israel, they had a bunch of kings get together. Israel still beat them. Now, this guy heard about that, so he's not going to take any chances. He's going to bring this great coalition of armies together. So Jabin, king of Hazor, had heard those things. He sent to Joab, king of Madon, and the king of Shimron, and the king of Ashkelon, and the kings that were of the north of the mountains and of the plains south, and of Shinneroth, and of the valleys of Shephelah, and of the borders of Dor on the west, and to the Canaanites on the east and on the west, and to the Amorite and the Hittite and the Perizzite and the Jebusites in the mountains, and the Hivitites under Hermon, and the land of Mizpah. So we're talking about, he is pulling together like a really, all the city states and all their armies are going to come together and fight against Israel. Verse 4, and they went out, they and all their hosts, and with them much people, even as the sand is upon the seashore in multitude, with horses and chariots very many. So when we say as the sand is on the sea, it basically means more than you can count. It's a huge host, but not just a host of army. They had horses and they had chariots. So this is, that's like having artillery back in that day. When you had cavalry and you had chariots, those were tough to stand against. So from a five senses point of view, it's like, how are we going to beat these guys? If we look at this from a five senses point of view, it's like, well, that's just not going to work for us. But God, when God puts his thumb on the scale, the majority is always in your favor, and God does put his thumb on the scale. Look at Second Kings. There's a great record I want to share with you in Second Kings chapter 6. Second Kings. Samuel, First, Second Samuel, First and Second Kings chapter 6. Because this is important for us if we are faced with daunting odds and God says, I've got this, I've got you, you will not be harmed. You can do this thing, whatever it happens to be. We have to see things from a spiritual perspective. If we look at it from the five senses, there's no way Israel, these guys were as the sand of the sea with horses and chariots to boot. This was quite a daunting army. And this guy was like, I'm not taking any chances. We're getting everybody together. We've got to beat this army or we'll all be destroyed, which was basically had been going on. All right. So chapter 6, and I just want to see this one record where God opened the eyes. 6:15. Let's start in verse 15. So just so you know, the king of Syria was getting ticked off because Elijah kept telling the king of Israel his plans. So finally, the king of Syria said to his inner circle, which one of you guys is working for the king of Israel? They go, none, my lord, but there's a prophet in Israel that tells the king of Israel what you say in your bedroom. Quite a thing, Oh, okay. So he sends his army to go take this prophet. He goes, I'll fix this wagon. So he thinks, hey, I'm Syria. We got this great army. We'll show up. We've got this guy. Verse 15. And when the servant of the man of God was risen early and gone forth, he's going out to the bathroom in the morning. Gone forth means, behold, an host compassed the city, both of horses and chariots. And his servant said unto him, alas, my master, how shall we do? Oh my God, how we can't get out of this. The whole city was circled about with this vast army, and they had horses and they had chariots. It was a very well-equipped army. And so the servant of the man of God's like panicking. He's like, oh my God, how are we going to get out of this? Verse 16, and so the man of God answers, Elisha answers, fear not, for they that be with us are more than they that would be with them. It wouldn't appear so from the five senses. It's him and his servant, and they walk out to go to the bathroom, and they are besieged by a host, a great host, a powerful host. But the man of God says to him, we got more guys on our side than they have on their side. And this young man can't see it, not yet. Verse 17, Elijah prayed and said, Lord, I pray thee, open his eyes that he may see. And the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots and of fire round about Elijah. They got chariots and horses. Ours are on fire. And when they came down to him, Elijah prayed unto the Lord, saying, smite this people, I pray, with blindness. And he smote them with blindness according to the word of Elijah. Okay, so you got this great army, but they all just went blind. Not really that helpful that much. Anyway, Elijah leads them to Samaria, the capital of Israel. The king wants to kill him. He goes, no, you're not going to kill him. Put some food in front of him and send them home. And so the king sends them home, does what Elijah tells them. And they're like, yeah, we can't mess with this guy. It's just more than, it was just, and it doesn't even say that they saw what the young man saw. We need to pray for God to open our eyes. There are angels that God sends. Jesus Christ gets to command angels, it says in Peter, that there can be things that you're doing that God sends angels to be involved with. Sometimes there are devil spirits involved. And God, open my eyes and let me see what's going on in a situation so that I can then ask you, what can I do about it? What should I do about it? What would you have me to do about this? But we need to be able to see spiritually. We have the manifestation of discerning of spirits, which really would be that operation where God opened his eyes and he could see all the angel armies around about him. All right, back to Joshua 11. I also think of Romans 8:31, where it says, if God be for us, who can be against us? That can't just be a catchphrase. We have to really take that to heart. If we're walking with God, it really doesn't matter what they're going to bring against you, because you have, and again, when God puts his thumb on the scale, remember, God's got that hail hidden that he can utilize, throw down like he did to that one army. And it's like, yeah, Air superiority before there was air superiority. God had it. All right, so verse 5. And when all these kings were met together, they came and pitched together at the waters of Merom to fight against Israel. This is Lake Merom in Israel, northwest of the Sea of Galilee. So the Sea of Galilee is kind of towards the north, a little bit um, west of that, closer to between Galilee and the Mediterranean. There's this lake called the waters of Merom, or the Lake of Merom. Verse 6, and the Lord said unto Joshua, be not afraid because of them, for tomorrow about this time I will deliver them up, all slain before Israel. Thou shalt hew their horses and burn their chariots with fire. So hew is to hamstring. We don't know how God's going to do this, or God's going to have Joshua do this, but God's got a plan. You're gonna hamstring their horses. You're gonna what's the cripple? Basically, is the other word that hew would mean. Cripple their horses, burn their chariots. So Joshua came and all the people of war with him against them by the waters of Merom suddenly, and they fell upon him. So it's a sneak attack. They're not expecting Joshua. Remember, these guys must have been cocky because they had a host that was like the sand of the sea, and horses and chariots. And they're thinking, yeah, those guys are going to be running from this group. This is too big of an army. Nobody can take us on. Well, Joshua attacked. And the Lord delivered them into the hands of Israel, smote them and chased them unto the great Zidon and unto Mizpah, Main, and unto the valley of Mizpah eastward, and they smote them until they left them none remaining. This great host, as of the sands of the sea, was wiped out completely gone. And Joshua did unto them as the Lord bade him. He hewed or crippled their horses and burnt their chariots with fire. And Joshua at that time turned back and took Hazor and smote the king thereof with the sword. For Hazor before time was the head of all those kingdoms. So he was like the king of kings, or the emperor of all these other kingdoms. He sent word out, hey, I'm calling you to come fight with me. And he was probably the more powerful king. So they all came. And so he was one of the guys. Joshua put him to death personally, put him to death. Verse 11, and they smote all the souls that were therein with the edge of the sword, utterly destroying them, that there was not any left to breathe. And he burned Hazor with fire, which is, a little more embarrassing, I would say. But it says souls, any left to breathe. The Bible talks about soul life in Genesis as God breathed into man the breath of life, and man became a living soul. What gives our bodies life is breath, is soul, right? We breathe. Sometimes you've heard people say he took his, I don't know if you ever seen a person or an animal take their last breath. I've seen it with one of my dogs I put down. That last long breath gets let out, and then the body begins to die. It stops being able to live. Breath is one of the things we need. Without breath, we can't live for very long. So breath life, when we get our new bodies, they will not be soul-based. They'll be spirit-based. It won't be breath life. It'll be spirit life that gives us life. So we'll have a body like unto Jesus Christ. But right now, we're body, soul, and spirit. Our soul life, our breath life, right? The life of the flesh is in the blood, it says in Leviticus. The life of the flesh is in the blood. We know that our blood takes oxygen from our lungs and gets it to all the cells so that they can function. Without oxygen, your body begins to die. That's what makes us a living soul. Literally, the Hebrew word is nephesh is soul. Kai nephesh is living soul. A living soul. Someone who is alive is breathing. And then to have eternal life, that's to have spirit, which is a whole nother thing. So he did not leave any to breathe, left that to breathe, and he burned Hazor, the king, with fire. Question? Oh, okay. And all the cities of those kings and all the kings of them did Joshua take and smote them with the edge of the sword, and he utterly destroyed them as Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded, right? Joshua obeyed God. He had a long suit in wisdom, and he obeyed what God said to the letter. But as for the cities that stood still in their strength, Israel burned none of them, save Hazor only. That did Joshua burn. And all the spoil of the cities and all the cattle the children of Israel took for prey unto themselves. But every man they smote with the edge of the sword that they had destroyed, neither left they any left they any to breathe. So every person in that land, and we talked about this, this is to cleanse the land of devil spirits. These people went into some very evil practices, and devil spirits ruled these areas. So God was cleaning the land out so Israel could come in and take it. Now, God didn't say they couldn't take the spoil of these cities, so they did. They took them because they're going to need that to survive as they move into these cities. They're going to need the cattle and the crops and all that stuff. Verse 15, as the Lord commanded Moses, his servant, so did Moses command Joshua, and so did Joshua. He left nothing undone of all that the Lord commanded Moses. Joshua was faithful. Moses got the revelation, and we can read about this in Deuteronomy. Moses tells Israel how we're going to divide the land. He lays it out because God gives it to Moses. Moses gives it to Israel. Joshua is going to do what Moses said. We'll see as we come up on that. We probably will look back at Deuteronomy when we get to the point of dividing the nation, how God set it up. But Joshua was faithful. He obeyed what God said. If we're gonna be faithful, if we're gonna operate the manifestation of faith, the manifestation of believing, we have to be obedient to what God tells us. When God tells us something, we do exactly that, no more, no less. Verse 16, so Joshua took all the land, the hills, and all the south country, and all the land of Goshen, and the valleys, the Shephelah, we talked about that, and the plain and the mountains of Israel, and the valley of the same, the Shephelah. Even from the Mount Halak that goeth up to Seir, even unto Baal-gad in the valley of Lebanon, under the Mount Hermon, and all the kings he took and smote them and slew them. So Lebanon is further north in Israel. It's above Israel to the west of Syria, to the north of Israel. Lebanon is up there, and Israel will go up to the border of Lebanon. And we'll see that as we begin to look at this stuff. Verse 18, Joshua made war a long time with all those kings, and there was not a city that made peace with the children of Israel, save the Hittites and the inhabitants of Gibeon. All the others they took in battle. Those are the guys who tricked them, remember? Hey, we're from a long way away. We want to make peace with you. And they lived like next door. And they didn't ask God. Verse 20, for it was of the Lord to harden their hearts, that they should come against Israel in battle, that he might destroy them utterly, and that they might have no favor, but that he might destroy them as the Lord commanded Moses. This is what God did with Pharaoh in Egypt, right? He hardened their hearts. There's a pride that goes in when people refuse to humble themselves before God. And these guys like, well, we don't know their God. Pharaoh said to Moses, I don't know your God. Pharaoh thought he was a God. Well, that didn't work out too well for him. He ended up drowning in, contrary to what Cecil B. DeMille showed on the movie, Pharaoh never came back to Egypt. He was with his troops when it says nobody escaped, and Pharaoh was with them. They pursued, Pharaoh was there. So they destroyed Egypt militarily, politically. Pharaoh died. Financially, they took all the wealth of Egypt out with them. Religiously, they embarrassed their gods. Egypt never quite recovered from Israel, what they did to Israel and then what Israel ended up doing to them when they left. But these kings had pride and thought, well, we have so many people, it doesn't matter. They won't be able to stand against us. And God clearly was able to subdue them and turn them over to Joshua. Verse 21, and at that time came Joshua and cut off the Anakims from the mountains, from Hebron and Deborah, and from Anab, and from all the mountains of Judah, and from all the mountains of Israel. Joshua destroyed them utterly with their cities. The Anakims are the children of Anak. Goliath was one of the sons of Anak. These are the giants that lived. These Anakims, there's a couple of names you hear referred to as these giants. Anakims or the sons of Anak. Nephilim, which is it. Nephilim, it's the best we can tell in the book of Genesis. Fallen angels took wives of human men, and the offspring were these Nephilim. And I think their offsprings were called Rephaim, and we're going to see that comes up as well. So these giants, very tall, taller than typical people. And, we'll see as we read on, but God has them killed. Verse 22, there was none of the Anakims left in the land of the children of Israel. Only in Gaza, in Gath, and in Ashdod they remain. So still some in the cities of the Philistines. That's where Goliath came out of. So there was still some there, but not in Israel, not only where the Philistines lived. And Joshua took the whole land according to all that the Lord said unto Moses. And Joshua gave it for an inheritance unto Israel according to their divisions by tribes, and the land rested from war. So they came in, fought, they fought a southern campaign, they fought a northern campaign. They basically just continued to fight till there was nobody left to fight in all the borders that God had said, I'm giving you this land and you'll divide it among the tribes of Israel. Chapter 12, verse 1. These are the kings of the land which the children of Israel smote and possessed their land on the other side of Jordan towards the rising of the sun. So on the east side, towards the rising of the sun, from the river Arnon and Mount Hermon and all the plains on the east. So the river Arnon is about halfway down the Dead Sea. Let's see if we can share this. Hold on, I'll take a look. Pretty sure I've got. Okay, so let's find this. That's the battle. That's the battle. There it is right there. So in the Dead Sea, there's a river that comes off to the right of the Dead Sea. That's the Arnon River, or the river of Arnon. So God uses that. On one side below that, I believe, are the Ammonites and the Moabites. And I think Edom is below that even. So that's some of the areas there. We'll get to these other maps that, whoops. Drag that there. Hold on. Let's see if I can pull that up. You guys still saying that? Yeah, this is the breakdown of how the tribes were divided. We'll get back to this map later on. But all the way from the north, all the way down to the very south. And then this river, the Euphrates River at the very south, is the southern border of what God gave to Israel. That's the area that God has said belongs to Israel. So, when people say that Israel occupies the land, it's just not true. God gave that land to Israel. And if God, if the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, he can give it to whom he will. And he gave that land to Israel. So, verse 2, Shihon, king of the Amorites. So chapter 12, verse 2. Shihon, king of the Amorites, whom dwelt in Heshbon, and ruled from Aner, which is upon the bank of the river Arnon, and from the middle of the river, and from half Gilead, even unto the river Jabbok, which is on the border of the children of Ammon. And from the plain to the Sea of Chinneroth. Sea of Chinneroth is another name for the Sea of Galilee. On the east, and unto the sea of the plain, even the Salt Sea, that's the Dead Sea on the east, the way to Beth Jeshmoth, and from the south unto Ashdar Pisnah. This is like northeast of the Dead Sea. And the coast of Og, king of Bashan, which was of the remnant of the giants. That's that word, Rephatites or Rephaim. He was one of the king of Og. I think in Deuteronomy, well, we can take a look at it, but in Deuteronomy, it says like his bed was like very huge. They described the guy's bed. He was one of the giants, and he was the king of that area, King Og, king of Bashan, and that he was of the remnant and the giants and dwelt in Ashtaroth and at Endredi. Ashtaroth is part of that, one of those Philistine cities. And reigned in Mount Hermon and in Selah and in Bashan and the borders of the Gershurites and the Macashites and half Gilead and the border of Shihon, king of Heshbon. Then did Moses, the servant of the Lord, and the children of Israel smite, and Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave it for a possession unto the Reubenites and the Gadites and the half tribe of Manasseh. So the Reubenites and the Gadites are two of the tribes. The half tribe of Manasseh, Joseph gets a double portion. He's given a double portion because he had the coat of many colors. That signified that he was the heir, that his father had chosen him to be the heir. He wasn't the oldest son, but he was the oldest son of his favorite wife. So Joseph and I believe Benjamin came out of the same woman. And so Joseph was given a double portion. So his two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, who were born to him in Egypt, both got full tribes in Israel. And so then you read that and you go, well, how can that be? And then there's still 12 tribes. Well, the tribe of Levi, God took as his portion. We'll see that as we read through. Levi doesn't get land in Israel. They get to serve God in the temple. The priests come out of the line of Aaron, who's part of the tribe of Levi. The other Levites are, porters and the guards and anything that needs to be service to the temple. The Levites are the ones. They're the ones that carried the Ark of the Covenant. Nobody could touch it. Levites. All right, where did I leave off? Verse 7. So Manasseh, one of the half tribes, gets some of this land set aside for it. Verse 7. And these are the kings of the country which Joshua and the children of Israel smote on this side Jordan, on the west from Baal-Gad in the valley of Lebanon, even unto the Mount Halak that goeth up to Seir, which Joshua gave unto the tribes of Israel for a possession according to their divisions. In the mountains and in the valleys. Valleys again is that word Shephelah, in that grass valley, and in the plains and in the springs and in the wilderness and in the south country, the Hittites and the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Then it's going to list 31 kings that they won in battle, they beat in battle. The king of Jericho, right? That was the first one we read. And there was a big buildup on that story to show how God was going to give them very specific revelation. Joshua, having a long suit and wisdom, was going to hear it and follow through. And then that city fell. It was like, holy crap, if Jericho with their thick walls can't stand, who's going to stand against these? Then they go up against Ai. They lose their first battle because of idolatry. Come back to the camp, figure that out, go back and beat Ai, right? Then so they go through. So the king of Jericho won, the king of Ai, which is besides Bethel, won, the king of Jerusalem won, the king of Hebron won, the king of Jarmuth won, the king of Lachish won, the king of Eglon won, the king of Gezer won, the king of Debir won, the king of Cedar won, the king of Hormeth won, the king of Arid won, the king of Libnah won, the king of Adullam won, the king of Makkedah won, the king of Bethel won, the king of Tapnah won, the king of Heptah won, the king of Ephek won, the king of Lashron won, the king of Mardon won, the king of Hazor won, the king of Shimron won, the king of Atzpah won, the king of Tanakh won, the king of Megiddo won. That's the city where we get the name Armageddon from. Armageddon means the hill of Megiddo. That's where these armies will gather before they attack Jerusalem. The battle doesn't actually take place primarily in Armageddon. That's where they all come together in the book of Revelation, stage the battle to attack Jerusalem. But it's that town, Megiddo. The king of Kadesh won, the king of Jonim of Carmel won, the king of Dor in the coast of Dor won, the king of the nation of Gilgal won, the king of Tisra won. All the kings, 30-1. So we see Jericho is the first one that falls. We kind of take a few chapters to kind of build up to that. And then we see all these other 30 nation states or city states fall with their kings as they try to stand against Israel. How are we doing on time? We got time. We're good. All right, chapter 13. Now Joshua was old and stricken in years, and the Lord said unto him, thou art old and stricken in years. Thanks a lot, God. And there remaineth yet very much land to be possessed. We haven't finished what we need to do here to possess this land. This is the land that yet remaineth, all the borders of the Philistines and the Geshuri and Shirah, which is before Egypt, even to the borders of Ekron northward, which is counted to the Canaanites. 5 lords of the Philistines, the Gazarites, the Ashdodites, the Eshkanites, the Gittites, the Ekronites, and the Avitites. Those were all the 5. They had 5 basically lords of the Philistines, and these still have to be taken. Verse 5, in the land of the Gibeonites and all Lebanon towards the sun rising, from Baal-Gad unto Hermon, unto the entering into Hamath. This is the north country. Lebanon and Hamath are up in the far north of Israel. Actually, see if we can take a quick look at one of the maps on that. Let me see. Gotta get my share back. And so, where is that? I think I saw a different map that I was using last time. It's further up north than this map is showing. I don't know if I had a map earlier on, but I don't know if I have that map here. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't look like it goes far enough up. Lebanon would be up on the water, farther up north. Syria off the water to the right of Lebanon. What's this one show? No. Oh yeah, there's Mount Hermon there we talked about, which is so there's Damascus, Syria. There's Mount Hermon. There's Hamath at the very top there, and then we've got Lebanon above that. So these are all the areas that God had given them. Okay. All right. So verse 4 of chapter 13. From the south, all the lands of the Canaanites and Merah, which is beside the city, and Sidon is up north on the coast, unto Aphek, to the borders of the Amorites, and to the land of the Gittites, and all Lebanon towards the sun rising. Lebanon's like on the north of Israel, like I said, west of Syria. Towards the sun rising from Balgad unto Hermon unto the entering of Hamath. Hamath was at the very top of Israel. All the inhabitants of the hill country from Lebanon unto Mizproth, Malm, and all the Sidonians, them will I drive out before the children of Israel. Only divide thou it by lots unto the Israelites for inheritance as I have commanded thee. So once they get in there, they're going to do like a drawing, like a lottery to who's going to take what land, because some land's probably going to be better than others. So how are we going to do this? Well, first we're going to divide the land by tribes, and then it'll be divided by families by lot. So you'll pick they'll I don't know if they'll some way of figuring out, but it was by chance, and then you would get certain land to work. Verse 7. Now therefore divide this land for inheritance unto the 9 tribes and the half tribe of Manasseh. So they already had given to 2 of the tribes on the other side, and Manasseh got a portion, but the rest of the land's coming to Manasseh is still going to be given. We'll get to the other tribes. Yep.
So there's more land further north that they have to divide amongst the other 4 tribes.
Yeah, there's still land that's going to be divided. That's beyond. So two of the tribes of Manasseh got land on the other side of the Jordan, Reuben and Gad.
Mm-hmm.
Reuben and Gad. And then Manasseh got some of that. The next one, they're going to divide to 9 of the tribes. And Manasseh still is going to get a piece of that as well to give him, because that's what God had set aside. Okay. Then we'll look at the other tribes where they get, and we're going to look at the Levites and what God specifically says, you guys don't get land. You're my portion. I take the whole tribe of Levi, because every child that opens the womb was supposed to be dedicated to God. And you could redeem that child by like making a sacrifice of a lamb or a bull, or some sort of substitute. Well, Levi was God's substitute for the firstborn, because the firstborn's supposed to belong to God. So Levi became God's portion, because Levi was the tribe that stood with Moses when all of Israel got into idolatry in the wilderness. Levi didn't. And God said, okay, you guys are with me. So, verse 9. From Ara unto upon the bank of the river Arnon, which we saw that on the left side of the Dead Sea, about halfway up, in the city that's in the midst of the river, in the plain of Medba and Divon, which is in that same area, and all the cities of Shihon, king of the Amorites, which reigns in Heshbon, unto the borders of the children of Ammon, which is the southeast part of Israel. Below that was Ammon, and Gilgal and the borders of the Girgashites and Machanites and all of Hermon and all of Bashan unto Salcah, and the kingdom of Og in Bashan, which reigned in Ashtaroth and in Edrei, who remaineth the remnant of the giants. For these did Moses smite and cast them out. So these giants, they weren't considered, a godly race of people, and we see that in them coming up against David and Israel in the book of Samuel. Verse 13. Nevertheless, the children of Israel expelled not the Gershites nor the Maccathites, but the Gershites and the Maccathites dwell among Israel unto this day. I believe those were probably the group of people that faked them out, so they're still there. Only unto the tribe of Levi he gave none inheritance. These are the Levites, right? Only the tribe of Levi he gave none inheritance. The sacrifice of the Lord God of Israel made by fire or their inheritance. And he said unto them, so as you're a priest and you're serving, or you're a Levite serving in the temple worship, part of temple worship was to bring in sacrifice, animal sacrifice. They would bring in grain sacrifices. They would bring in wine sacrifices. They would bring in the first fruits. They would sacrifice animals. The animals would be sacrificed by fire, and then the priests and the Levites would eat of the sacrifices. There's that phrase we read in the New Testament that those that ministered to the temple lived off the things of the temple, and don't muzzle the ox that grinds out the corn, God says. Well, what does that mean? If you had an ox that you had, strapped to a grinding wheel, you weren't allowed to put a muzzle on it, because if it got grain fell, it was allowed to eat that. In other words, if you did the work, you get to eat. Well, the priests and the Levites were treated that way. They were going to be the ones serving God in the temple, so they got to eat of whatever was given into the temple, and they weren't allowed to own land. They didn't own any property. They were God's portion. So, verse 14 again, only unto the tribe of Levi he gave none inheritance. The sacrifices of the Lord God of Israel made by fire, and there are their inheritance. And he said unto them, and Moses gave unto the tribe of the children of Reuben inheritance according to their families, and their coast was from Aroer, and it was on the bank of the river Arnon, and the city that is in the midst of the river, and all the plain of Medba, Heshbon, and all her cities, and the plain of Dibbar, and Bamith-baal, and Baal-baal-men, and Jahaz, and Kedemah, and Meshpatah. Boy, those are brutal. And Kirjathim, and Shema, and Zareth Shahar in the mount of the valley, and Beth Peor, and Ashtapis, and Beth Jehamath, and all the cities of the plain, and all the kingdoms of Sihon, king of the Amorites, which reigned in Heshbon, whom Moses smote with the princes of Midian, Evi, and Rechem, and Zur, and Hur, and Reba, were the dukes of Shihon that dwelt in the county. And Balaam, the son of Beor, the soothsayer, did the children of Israel slay with the sword among them that was slain by him. This is quite a record. Geez, we have time. Yeah, we're probably not going to get further in this chapter, but we got to look at Balaam. The record in Balaam is in Numbers. Is it 31? I think. Hold on. Numbers 31. Let's take a look. We got to learn about Balaam. Leviticus, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers 31. So this guy is interesting. This is just telling us that they slew him. Hang on a second. There's a record of Balaam earlier. Curse me, this people, basically, is where the king. Hang on. Yeah, there it is. Look at it. Is it 23? No, it's before that. 22. Yeah, this is worth looking at. This is such a great record.
What book you in?
I'm in Numbers 22:1.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I had the note I had just brought me back to where they had slew him, but not why. And well, let's look. So verse 22, the children of Israel set forward and pitched in the plains of Moab on this side Jordan by Jericho. And Balak the son of Zippor saw that all Israel had done to the Amorites. And Moab was sore afraid of the people because they were many, and Moab was distressed because of the children of Israel. And Moab said unto the elders of Midian, now shall this company lick up all that are round about us, as an ox licketh up grass in the field. And Balak the son of Zippor was king of the Moabites at that time. So he is the king, and he's freaked out because he sees that nobody can stand against Israel. Verse 5, he sent messengers therefore unto Balaam the son of Beor to Pethor, which is by the river of the land of the children of his people, to call him, saying, behold, there is a people come out from Egypt. Behold, they cover the face of the earth, and they abide over against me. Come now, therefore, I pray thee, curse me this people, for they are too mighty for me. Peradventure I shall prevail, that we may smite them, and that I drive them out of the land. For I know not. I know that he whom thou blessed is blessed, and he whom thou cursed is cursed. And the elders of Moab and the elders of Midian departed with the rewards of divination in their hand. And they came unto Balaam and spake unto him the words of Balak. So they've got money or jewels or gold and silver to bribe this man who has a reputation that if he curses somebody, they're cursed. If he blesses somebody, they're blessed. He's an interesting figure as we read on. Verse 8. And he said unto them, lodge here this night, and I will bring you word again, as the Lord shall speak unto me. And the princes of Moab abode with Balaam. And God came unto Balaam and said, what men are these with thee? And Balaam said unto God, Balak the son of Zippor, king of Moab, has sent them unto me, saying, behold, there is a people come out of Egypt, which covereth the face of the earth. Come now, curse me them, peradventure I will be able to overcome them and drive them out. And God said unto Balaam, thou shalt not go with them. Thou shalt not curse the people, for they are blessed. So Balaam knows the Lord, and he's asking them, hey, can I do what this guy says? The problem is his motivation isn't completely pure here. He's looking for money, and that's always when spiritual men and women start coveting money, it's an open door for the devil to work in that situation. God will provide. You may not have a Learjet and drive a Rolls Royce and wear a Rolex. But if you need a car, God will get you a car, and you'll have a watch if you need a watch. And if you need a plane ticket, God will get you there. Or maybe God will just translate you and you'll show up there. God can meet your needs, but we don't covet things that are like, okay, I got to have money, money, money. It always goes bad. Covetousness is a form of idolatry, and this guy's got that going on, which is a problem. Verse 13, but Balaam rose up in the morning and said unto the princes of Balak, go you into your land. The Lord refused to give me leave to go with you. And the prince of Moab rose up, and they went unto Balak and said, Balaam refused to come with us. And Balak sent yet again princes more and more honorable than they. Oh, maybe I didn't send a guy who was important enough. Let me send, my right-hand man. Let me send my son. Let me send the top guys of the land. And Balak sent yet again princes more and more honorable than they. And they came to Balaam and said, thus saith Balak the son of Zippor, let nothing, I pray thee, hinder thee from coming unto me, for I will promote thee unto very great honor, and I will do whatsoever thou sayest unto me. Come therefore, I pray thee, curse me this people. And Balaam answered and said unto the servants of Balak, if Balak would give me his house full of silver and gold, I cannot go beyond the word of the Lord my God to do less or more. That's good. He's telling them, look, it's not what I decide, it's what God tells me, and I can't do more or less. But then what does he say? Verse 19, now therefore I pray you, tarry ye this night, that I may know what the Lord will say unto me more. Okay, so you can give him a bit of a break here, because sometimes when circumstance changes, revelation can change. But God has already told them, this people is blessed, you can't curse them. Don't go with them, this people is blessed, you can't curse them. That's the word, that's the last thing God said to him. But Balak's like, well, this is a pretty good deal. Let me just double check to make sure, So there definitely is a bit of covetousness going on in this guy's life. Verse 20, and God came unto Balak at night and said unto him, if the men come to call thee, rise up and go with them. But yet the words which I shall say unto thee, thou shalt do. And Balaam rose up in the morning and saddled his ass and went with the princes of Moab. It doesn't say they came for him. It says he got on his ass and went with them. God said, if they come. It doesn't say they came. So was he presumptuous here? Maybe so. Verse 23. Verse 22. And God's anger was kindled because he went. Okay, so now God didn't tell him to go. God said, if they come, go with them, knowing they weren't going to come. So God's anger was kindled because he went, and the angel of the Lord stood in the way for an adversary against him. Now he was riding upon his ass, and his 2 servants were with him. And the ass saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way with his sword drawn in his hand. And the ass turned aside out of the way and went into the field, and Balaam smote the ass to turn her into the way. So the jackass can see the angel, but the prophet can't, which is kind of a sad situation. The angel of the Lord stood in the path at the vineyard, and a wall being on this side and a wall on that side. And the ass saw the angel of the Lord, and she thrust herself onto the wall and crushed Balaam's foot against the wall, and he smote her again. And the angel of the Lord went further and stood in a narrow place where there was no way to turn either to the right or to the left. And when the ass saw the angel of the Lord, she fell down unto Balaam, and Balaam's anger was kindled, and he smote the ass with a staff. And the Lord opened the mouth of the ass, and she said unto Balaam, what have I done unto thee that thou hast smitten me these 3 times? The jackass starts talking to Balaam.
I love that.
Now, maybe some of you are old enough to remember Mr. Ed or Francis.
Yeah.
Okay, so these guys just basically took that from the Bible. That came from this record. So the talking mule, right? Verse 29, Balaam said unto the ass, because he's talking back to him like it's a normal thing. The ass is talking to Balaam. Balaam's having a conversation with the ass. Balaam said unto the ass, because thou hast mocked me, I would that there were a sword in my hand, for now I would kill thee. And the ass said unto Balaam, am not I thine ass upon which thou hast ridden ever since I was thine unto this day? Was I ever known or want to do unto thee? And he said, nay. And the Lord opened the eyes of Balaam, and he saw the angel standing in the way with his sword drawn in his hand, and he bowed down his head and fell flat on his face. God has angels that can fight, and they are powerful. So this angel is standing resisting this prophet because the prophet's not doing what God wants him to do. Verse 32. And the angel of the Lord said unto him, wherefore hast thou smitten thine ass these 3 times? Behold, I went out to withstand thee, because thy way is perverse before me, right? He's coveting, he wants that reward of divination. And the ass saw me and turned from thee these 3 times. Unless she had turned from me, surely now I'd have slain thee and saved her life. I would have kept the ass alive and killed you. That doesn't say he thinks very well of this prophet. And Balaam said unto the angel of the Lord, I have sinned, for I knew not that thou stoodest in the way against me. Now therefore, if it displease thee, I will get back again. And the angel of the Lord said unto Balaam, go with the men, but only the word that I shall speak unto thee, that thou shalt speak. And Balaam went with the prince of Balak. And when Balak heard that Balaam was come, he went out to meet him in the city of Moab, which is in the border of Arnon, which is the uttermost coast. And Balak said unto Balaam, did I not earnestly send unto thee to call thee? Wherefore thou camest not unto me? Am I not able to indeed to promote thee to honor? Man, I can make your life so easy. And Balaam said unto Balak, lo, I am come unto thee. Have I now any power at all to say anything? The word that God putteth in my mouth, that shall I speak. And Balaam went unto Balak, and they came unto Kirth Jearim, Herzoth, and Balak offered oxen and sheep, and sent to Balaam and to the princes that were with him. And it came to pass on the morrow that Balak, that's the king, took Balaam the prophet, and brought him up into the high place of Baal, that he might see the uttermost part of the people. The high place of Baal is where the pagan worship of Baal took place. So this pagan king brings them to this pagan high place, because they always put their temples and their altars up high. Maybe they thought they'd get closer to heaven, I don't know. But he brings them up there so he can see all of Israel spread out coming in. Chapter 23, verse 1. And Balaam said to Balak, build me here 7 altars and prepare me 7 oxen and 7 rams. And Balak did as Balaam had spoken. And Balak and Balaam offered on every altar a bullock and a ram. And Balaam said unto Balak, stand by thy burnt offerings, and I will go. Peradventure the Lord will come to meet me. And whatsoever he showeth me, I will tell thee. And he went to the high place. And God met Balaam, and he said unto him, I have prepared 7 altars, and I have offered upon every altar a bullock and a ram. And the Lord put a word in Balaam's mouth and said, Return unto Balak, and thus thou shalt speak. And he returned unto him, and lo, he stood by his burnt sacrifice, he and all the princes of Moab. And he took up a parable and said, Balak, king of Moab, hath brought me from Amram out of the mountains of the east, saying, curse me, Jacob, and come defy Israel. How shall I curse whom God hath not cursed? How shall I defy whom the Lord hath not defied? From the top of the rocks I see him, and from the hills I behold him. Lo, the people shall dwell alone and shall not be reckoned among the nations. Nobody's going to live with them, including you. So that's not what this king wanted to hear. Who can count the dust of Jacob and number the 4th part of Israel? Let me die the death of the righteous. Let my last end be like his. Balak said unto Balaam, What hast thou done unto me? What hast thou done unto me? I took thee to curse mine enemies, and behold, thou hast blessed them altogether. And he answered and said, Must I not take heed to speak that which the Lord puts in my mouth? And Balak said unto him, Come, I pray thee, with me to another place from whence thou mayst see them. Thou shalt see but the uttermost part of them, and thou shalt not see them all, and curse me them from thence. He's still trying to get a favorable word from this prophet, and it's just not going to come. And he brought him to the field of Zophim, to the top of Pisgah, and built 7 altars, and offered a bullock and a ram on every altar. And he said unto Balak, Stand here by the burnt offering, same deal as last time, and I will meet the Lord yonder. And the Lord met Balaam and put a word in his mouth. Go again unto Balak and say thus. And when he came to him, behold, he stood by his burnt offerings, and the princes of Moab with him. And Balak said unto him, What hath the Lord spoken? And he took up his parable and said, Rise up, Balak, and hear. Hearken unto me, thou son of Zippor. God is not a man that he should lie, neither the son of man that he should repent. Hath he said it, and shall he not do it? Or hath he spoken it, and shall he not make it good? Behold, I received commandments to bless, and he hath blessed, and I cannot reverse it. And he hath not beheld iniquity in Jacob, neither hath he seen perverseness in Israel. The Lord his God is with him. The shout of a king is among them, talking about the Christ, really. Hey, the shout of a king is among them. That's a prophecy about Christ coming. God brought them out of Egypt. He hath, as it were, the strength of a unicorn. Surely there is no enchantment against Jacob, neither is there any divination against Israel. According to this time it shall be said of Jacob and of Israel, what hath God wrought? You can't curse whom God has blessed. You can't, there are people who will try to use witchcraft and curses against you and against people you may come into contact with. Jesus Christ and that name and the blood of Jesus Christ is the breaker of all curses. Even if it's a family curse where somebody in their family did evil things and maybe made a deal with the devil or with devil spirits, we can break those curses. Those curses can be broken. The person has to renounce them. The person can't continue. When we're fighting against the devil and evil, it's imperative that we have no unconfessed sin, because that's an entree for the devil to come in and take away to get to us. In fact, I believe Balaam taught Balak how to try to trick the children of Israel by bringing unbelieving women into them. And I believe, I have to look for that verse, but he's talked about a number of places, not in a good way, because he was seeking gain. He was seeking money, and that money was God. God can take care of your needs. We don't need money from unbelievers. We don't need people giving us, great rewards so that you can, live like the rich and famous. Generally speaking, what's the great verse is it in Proverbs? Says, give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with food convenient for me, lest I be full and forget the Lord, or lest I be poor and take the name of the Lord in vain. We don't need to have so much riches that we don't know what to do with them. God will provide our needs. This guy, he just kept going back, trying to get an angle. We don't play angles. When God tells you something once, that's enough. That is literally enough. Can God change the revelation? Yes. If circumstances change, God can change the revelation. When the prophet went into the king Hezekiah, who was going to die, he went in and said, "Get your affairs in order. You're going to die." And as the prophet was walking out, Hezekiah turned to the wall and prayed to God. And God heard his prayer and gave him another 15 years and stopped the prophet from leaving the palace and sent him back and said, "The Lord has heard your prayer. God has given you 15 years." But something had changed. The king had prayed, had humbled himself. One time, when God says something once, that's enough. If God says something twice, it's established. If God says something 3 times, he's making a point. It's complete. So Balaam wanted to try to find an angle where he could still get the money. And he ends up dead. When Israel comes into the land, he dies with the unbelievers. He doesn't get protected like Ruth got protected, right? He doesn't get protected. Verse 24. Behold, the people shall rise up a great lion and lift him a young lion, and shall not lie down until he eat all the prey and drink the blood of the slain. And Balak said unto Balaam, neither curse them at all, nor bless them at all. But Balak answered and said unto Balak, told not I thee, saying, all that the Lord speaketh, that I must do. And Balak said unto Balaam, come, I pray thee, I will bring thee to another place, peradventure, if it will please God, that thou mayest curse me them before thee. And Balak brought Balaam up to the top of Peor, and looked towards Jeshimon. And Balaam said unto Balak, build me here 7. He's still trying to get God to change his mind. And Balaam said unto Balak, build me 7 altars and prepare me 7 bullocks and 7 rams. And Balak did as Balaam, and they offered the bullock and the ram. And Balaam saw that it pleased the Lord to bless Israel. He went not after at other times to seek the enchantments, but he set his face towards the wilderness. And Balaam lifted up his eyes, and he saw Israel abiding in tents according to their tribes. And the Spirit of God came upon him. And he took up this parable and said, Balaam, the son of Beor, hath said, and the man whose eyes are open hath said, he hath said, which heard the word of God and which saw the vision of the Almighty, falling into a trance, a vision, but having his eyes open. How goodly are the tents of Jacob and thy tabernacles, O Israel, as thy valleys are spread forth, and thy gardens by the riverside, and the trees line aloes, and the Lord hath planted, and the cedars trees besides the water. He shall pour the water out of his bucket, and his seed shall be many waters, and as kings shall be higher than Agag, and the kingdom shall be exalted. So he continues to bless Israel, even though he wanted to curse Israel. He wasn't of Israel, but he was a prophet, a man of God that God had called. And because of his disobedience, he ultimately gets killed by Israel coming into the land because he was trying to covet the pagan king's wealth. And there are some other verses. Actually, if you look at verse 10 of chapter 24, Balak's anger was kindled against Balaam, and he smote his hands together unto Balak and said unto Balaam, I called thee to curse mine enemies. Behold, thou hast altogether blessed them these 3 times. Now therefore flee thou to thy place. I thought to promote thee to great honor, but lo, the Lord hath kept thee back from honor. That's not true. That's just, we don't need what the world has to offer. There's nobody it'd be like the devil saying to Jesus, if you bow down and worship me, you can have all the kingdoms of the world. That's kind of the thing. And Balaam said unto Balak, spake not also to thy messenger which thou sent to me, if Balak would give me his house full of silver and gold, I cannot go beyond the commandment of the Lord to either good or bad of mine own, but what the Lord saith, that shall I speak. Yeah, you can read the rest of the record. I won't finish it tonight, but it's important because Balaam gets referenced a number of times, both in the Old Testament and New Testament, on what not to do, that we don't seek after riches. When it's never something, does that mean God can't give that to you? No, God gave Solomon riches. Riches never turned Solomon's heart away. It was his 300 wives and 500 concubines. These pagan women that he brought in because he was the king. He could do what he wanted, I guess, but that turned his heart from God. Which, it's one of the staples the devil uses. Sex, especially immoral sex, the devil will use to try to get an entree into our lives. Covetousness, right? Coveting, I got to have money, God can bless you with money if that's something that will not be a temptation for you. but God's not going to give it to you if it's going to drive you away from him, right? That's not what God's going to do. It's like, as kids, we want to eat all the candy we can get our hands on. Well, that's going to make us sick. God doesn't want us to do that. He wants us to be healthy. So he's not going to give us that which is going to hurt us. And if it's riches or if it's drugs or if it's sex, those are things that the devil uses, pleasures of the flesh, to try to get entree into believers' lives. If we're going to fight a real battle and fight with the devil and with his cohorts, we need to make sure that we don't have unconfessed sin that's going to give him an entree. So, I don't get up every morning and go, God, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. But if I make a mistake, believe me, I go to God and go, hey, yeah, God, sorry about that. Forgive me and help me get back to where I need to be, because I can't carry that around and function, because the devil wants to knock us out. How many times do we see these great ministries fall because of sex or drugs or money, these things that people get caught up in, the pleasures of the flesh? And it's back to the same thing that the devil tempted Eve with, the tree is going to make you wise, and, it's desirous to your eyes, and, it's going to be great. You'll be just like God, same lie being told. So Balaam ends up dying as the children of Israel come into the promised land. He does not get saved. I believe it was because of this sin of covetousness that he tried to find an angle to not do what God wanted him to do. Kind of sad. So, questions, comments? We'll pick up in the end of where we left off, that midway through the chapter next week. So we'll pick up and we'll go from there. And I'll send out the link. So if anybody wants to listen to it again, or somebody else will send those out, and we'll go from there. Sissy, you want to close us out with prayer tonight?
Sure. Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for the teaching tonight, and that we can focus on you and your son, Jesus Christ. I thank you for us having good health. I thank you for us having a good night's sleep and be restful. I thank you for your blessings to all. In the name of your son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Love you guys.
Good night.
Night.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thanks.
Bye.